Hello everyone, I'm Captain Logan, and I just wanted to remind everybody of a few things before I go on vacation. I'm going out of town this weekend for Christmas break, so Vince and I aren't going to be putting up any new videos until Tuesday. So you'll see a new podcast on Tuesday, and then all the normal stuff right after that will be right back on schedule. But we've been making new videos nearly every day for the last several months, and so it's time for a break. Gosh darn it! But no, really, going out of town for Christmas break, and wanted to wish everybody a great Christmas. And once again, hope you get awesome food. Hope you get great geeky presents, and feel free to leave us a comment on our channel comments or on either of our Christmas videos or something like that, and tell us what you got for Christmas, because that would be fun to find out. And also wanted to mention the Geeks Not Nerds Awards in case you either don't know about it or you haven't put your nominations in for it yet. We're doing an award show for entertainment throughout the year. This year we're just doing video games, movies, and comic books. King tells me King's putting it together, and he tells me we might have some more next year. Some people have been asking for TV, and next year we'll probably add television. But anyway, if you haven't already put in your nominations for that, go check out the Geeks Not Nerds Awards video. Like I said, I put that up like a week and a half ago. And see what the categories are in each of the different media, and then send your nominations to King, and make sure that gets in by the 31st, by midnight on the 31st. And then Vince and I are doing a live show where we're going to be giving you all the results for that. It'll be a lot of fun because we won't actually know them ahead of time, so it'll be like an award show. We'll pull everything out of envelopes, and it'll be really fun. Hopefully that's going to happen a few days after the nominations are in. So look forward to that. I'll let you know the exact date when we get it all set up. And finally, the real reason I'm making this video, besides just telling you that there won't be videos the next few days, and don't panic because we're not going anywhere, is I wanted to mention my book once again. Normal is a four-letter word. I brought this up a few times here and there. It's been available for a few weeks, but I wanted to read some of it to you so you'd get a sense of what the narrative was like, in case you're thinking about maybe getting a copy or you're not sure. And you know, I mean, lots of people write stuff. You have no idea if my writing's any good, so I thought, hey, I'll read you some. Maybe that'll help you decide whether or not you'd like to get a copy. Maybe you'll get some extra Christmas money or something, and you'll want to give this a chance. It's if you do decide you want to get it, it's $15 for a paperback copy through me. That's cheaper than getting it through Lulu or Amazon, and I'll sign it for you and personalize it. How about that? So you'll get a signed, personalized copy through me, sent directly from my house to you if you go to my website, wearegeeksnotnerds.com, and click on the sidebar at the bottom, buy Captain Logan's book, and also put the link in the description of this video. And you can also get a digital copy for $5 if you buy that. I'll just send you a PDF. And all the links just take you to PayPal, so you can just buy it through there. And then eventually we're going to have an audiobook, and I was hoping to have that done by Christmas, but it just hasn't happened. I'm not quite finished with it, so I don't have a timetable for that quite yet. But as soon as I do, I'll let you know when that's going to come out. And this might actually give you a little bit of a sense of what the audiobook's going to sound like, because I'll probably read this a little bit like I've been reading the audiobook. I thought of a lot of different places I could read to you from the book, but I'm afraid that if I read you anything later in the novel, you won't really know what I'm talking about without the background from the rest of the book. So I'll just read you the first chapter. It's fun, and it'll give you a sense of what the narrative's like. And so now for story time with Captain Logan, reading his own book. Anyway, so this is chapter 1. This chapter is my chapters are all named, and this one's called Franklin Can't Think Like He Used to. The novel, just so you know, is about 300 pages. It's over 100,000 words. It's a normal, regular length science fiction novel. And here's the first chapter. And tell me what you think. I hope you like it. Here we go. Here we go. Dr. Franklin Bryce was nervous about his new patient, Rajal Sharak. He seemed friendly enough, even with the orange skin and the bat wings, and in the first few minutes they spent together in Franklin's spacious fourth-story office, Franklin learned they both had an affinity for American cartoons. Franklin's a human, by the way. There's different species, but he's human. That broke the ice a bit. But as Sharak continued to lay more and more of his troubles out in front of him, Franklin felt increasingly ill-equipped to help him. After all, Rajal Sharak was from another dimension called Nixothia, and Nixots were impervious to telepathy. Several years earlier, a former patient named Stephen Zarkadium surprised Franklin with a gift, the ability to read minds. It was a thank you for helping him through a suicidal depression, and in doing this, Zarkadium also introduced Franklin to the existence of alternate dimensions, which changed his life forever. Shortly after that, Franklin was hired on at Vlachtermat Psychiatric Services, a firm in Abbott City specifically for helping beings from alternate dimensions to cope with life in a new place, and for helping human beings to cope with the fact that there really were alternate dimensions. After years of using telepathy in his sessions, Franklin couldn't imagine going without it all the time. He often felt it was the only thing that made him able to keep up with the countless species and cultures he dealt with on a regular basis. Rajal Sharak sat in a big black armchair across from Franklin, who sat in an identical big black armchair, with a long glass table separating them. Franklin had two regular human-looking arms, and two other appendages connected to his large wings, just like a bat. He looked uncomfortable. The furniture in this dimension must have been quite different from what he was used to. He kept readjusting his wings and shifting his weight from side to side. "Tell me more about your wife," Franklin said. "I don't even recognize her anymore," Sharak answered. "Why is that?" "She got a body-switching operation." "Oh, so you really don't recognize her anymore." "Don't get me wrong. I know she's still the same person and everything's still in the right place. But they aren't the same things. Her eyes are the wrong color and her wings are all wrong." "How did she come to the decision to get the operation?" "It's this huge fad in Nixothia right now. You meet someone, you both look at each other's bodies, each likes something the other has, and you make a trade. I think my wife only did it because she wanted to be a little shorter." "Shorter?" "It's considered good luck for women to be really small in Nixothia. Midgets get all the attention. But I think I got the short end of the straw." "Well, obviously." Sharak struggled to contain his frustration. "Meridosa used to have the most beautiful wings." "Do you still love her, Mr. Sharak?" "Of course I do. I just don't know if I can handle her looking like another woman." "Is she acting any differently?" "Well, no, not really. I mean, she slides under the cat door now, but all short women do that. Give it time. You'll get used to her new appearance. But let her know that it bothers you, and that you need time to adjust." Sharak nodded slowly, as though he expected this advice, but knew Franklin was right anyway. "Sure, I'll try." Franklin smiled, impressed with himself for getting so far without knowing what Sharak was thinking. Before talking about Sharak's wife, they had already discussed his fear of pine cones, since they didn't exist in his dimension, and they had dug deeply into the psychology behind Sharak's chronic habit of sleeping through every single Nixothian holiday. In each case, he managed to give Sharak some semblance of guidance. "Before we go, I'd like to go ahead and pay for my first month of session," Sharak said, digging frantically through his pockets. The confinement of the armchair made him slap himself repeatedly in the face with his left wing as he moved around. He finally got up out of the chair, reached into his back pocket, pulled out a small white envelope, and handed it to Franklin. "I'm afraid I'll forget if I don't do it now, and then I'll get behind on my bills, and..." "No, that's fine," Franklin said. Sharak thanked him, and they said their goodbyes. Once Sharak had left, Franklin sat behind his wide oak desk, placed his fingers behind his head, and leaned back to relax. He was finished with his patients for the day, and while he still had a pile of paperwork he wasn't especially looking forward to, he was relieved. He closed his eyes and imagined how the session with Sharak might have gone had he not been a Nixot. Franklin would instantly have wowed him with the knowledge that he had a fear of pine cones and was worried that his wife wasn't quite his wife anymore. Sharak would immediately be put at ease, because he had found someone who understood exactly what he was going through, since, after all, Franklin would be able to put all of his problems in exactly the same terms and use exactly the same language Sharak would have. There would have been no probing, no embarrassing questions, no nodding and smiling, pretending he really understood his patient's pain, when he was really just trying not to laugh at Sharak's seemingly absurd situation. No matter what the problem was, it never sounded ridiculous when Franklin could actually feel his patients as they talked to him. Franklin felt a small, quick breeze as something brushed past his head. He opened his eyes to see a folded piece of blank white paper floating just above his desk. close enough to give him a paper cut if it really felt like it. It slowly unfolded itself, and then the flat paper began to spin around in midair. As it did, it started to fold itself again, and then to rip along the front, then along the sides, and then at the back. The top and the sides met, and it became a perfect cube, somehow holding itself together without any tape or glue. I didn't know they made checks that could do that, Franklin thought, and then he instantly felt stupid for thinking it. The cube spun faster and began vibrating violently. As it did, Franklin's head started to throb, first like he was a piece of slate being hit with a chisel, and then with searing pain like the double kick bass in a death metal song. He grabbed both sides of his head and reeled forward until the pain was so unbearable he fell out of his chair. His head struck the front of his desk. That happened so fast he didn't have time to come up with an analogy for this new kind of pain before he dropped to the floor and blacked out. The last thing he saw before he fell unconscious was the paper cube shooting toward the daylight behind his spacious office windows. His secretary, Bethany, found and woke him a few minutes later. The paper cube was gone, and he realized, looking up at her and not feeling anything from her, that either she had finally embraced every blonde stereotype there was, and there truly was nothing behind her grapefruit-sized eyes, or the cube had somehow taken his telepathy with it. Bruised and dumbfounded, he was barely able to make a complete sentence. "Your mind. There's nothing there." "Thanks," Bethany said sarcastically. "No, I mean, I can't read you. Maybe you should buy a thinking aid." Now, under other circumstances, he might have considered it, but he knew it wouldn't help. As Bethany lifted him off the floor and helped him out of the office and into the hall, his conversation with Rajal Chirac played over in his mind. Chirac had been convincing, but now Franklin recalled noticing something in his eyes, a certain calculation as they talked. He realized that Chirac was analyzing him, looking for clues in case Franklin was on to his scheme. And by the end, when he was sure he had Franklin fooled, Chirac whipped out his secret weapon and got out of there as fast as he could. He probably didn't have a phobia about pine cones or a wife. Rajal Chirac probably wasn't his real name. He might not have even liked cartoons. His wife, Lyra, discovered Franklin's missing telepathy only 3 days later when she found an ad for it on interdimensional eBay. It turned out that Chirac was a superpower dealer. He stole people's abilities and sold them for premium prices. Franklin tried to tell the investigations division of interdimensional eBay that Chirac was a thief, but Chirac had somehow forged a legitimate-looking receipt with Franklin's signature, saying that Franklin had sold him his telepathy. He must have used some kind of magic forging spell. They were hard to come by, but considering Chirac had managed to convince Franklin that he was a patient in need of counseling, he was obviously a professional with major connections throughout the multiverse. And even if Franklin had been able to prove it, there was no interdimensional law, and alternate dimensions weren't officially recognized in any country in Franklin's dimension. Chirac could only be prosecuted in Nixophia, his own dimension. And from what he knew about the complex and convoluted justice system of Nixophia, Franklin doubted it would be a big priority for them. Franklin sat at his computer and watched the auction, sweating, as the price of his telepathy rose and rose. He could feel it slipping further and further away in that final hour, as he refreshed his web browser every few minutes and watched the time tick away. The auction had started at a price Franklin couldn't possibly afford, and it ended at an equivalent of $50,000. In that last moment, as he read the words, "This auction is now closed," Franklin wondered if this was the first time Chirac had stolen telepathy, and if he had ever kept that power for himself. He wondered if Chirac was reading his mind before he left, knowing how important the ability was to his career, his lifestyle. Above all, Franklin wondered if Chirac knew he was ruining his life, and if that information made him reconsider his plans, even for a second. The next day, Franklin called in sick for work. So once again, that's the first chapter of Normal is a Four-Letter Word. It's a science fiction comedy, and it's full of all kinds of fun sci-fi tropes. Homicidal robots, giant flying eyeballs with heat vision, tons of superpowers, obviously. And so I hope you enjoyed that, and hope you'll give it a shot if you're so interested. And like I said, Merry Christmas, everybody. Have a really fun holiday. We'll see you again on Tuesday, and hope you get lots of great geeky stuff for Christmas.